What small block Chevy was only available in the late 70s four-wheel drive models only? Stick around, maybe you'll learn as much as I did. Hey, welcome to Squarebody Stuff. I'm Chad, and this is another installment of Motor Monday. I know they're engines, not technically motors, but Engine Monday just don't work right. So we're going to call it Motor Monday. And before we get into this video, I want to ask you if you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button down below. Ring that little notification bell, because that will give you notification when I put new videos out. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you see. Go down below into the description box and you can check out my merchandise. It's a Teespring link. I've got some hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, quite a few things. This is one of my designs. I drew these trucks up. This one's got several on it. I've got available with just individual trucks, so go check those out. You might find something you like. And now we're going to get to the small block Chevy that only came in four-wheel drives in the late 70s. If you haven't guessed already, I'm talking about the 400 cubic inch small block Chevy. I'm going to try to keep most of the information detailed towards their lifespan in the Squarebody GM trucks. I'm not going to go into great detail of every little specific difference between them and every other small block Chevy. I'll give some brief basics of them. Now, the small block 400 started life in 1970 and lasted till 1980. They were designed for just a larger cubic inch, kind of a torque motor. They were never designed for performance. The GM never put out a performance version of them in any passenger cars or trucks. Now, I did dig in and do quite a bit of research on the 400 and its lifespan in the square body trucks. One of the places I went to for the research was GM Heritage. I'll leave a link to that down in the description box below. And also for some casting numbers and the specifications of the 400 and all my casting numbers, I pretty much go to moretech.com. I'll leave a link to that down in the description box also. Now, here's some numbers of what makes a small block 400 a small block 400. Bore size is 4.125. Stroke is 3.750. Now, on the crankshaft, their main journal size, which is the 400 is the only small block Chevy to use its main journal size from the factory, is at a 2.650. Your typical main journal size for your medium journals is a 2.45. That's what your 350s, 305s, 307s, and the later 327s and 302s, they had the medium journal size of 2.450. Now, the 400 had the same 2.100 rod journal size on the crankshaft that most of your typical medium journal small block Chevys had. Now, something else that GM did with the 400 that was only used in the 400 was the rod length. The rod length was a shorter 5.560 versus the 5.7 of your typical small block Chevys. Now, there's a few other things that GM did with the 400 that is specific to the 400. The 400 had steam holes in the block deck in between the cylinders and also drilled into the cylinder heads. Another thing that makes 400s different than most of your other small block Chevys is they are externally balanced. There's some other details about the 400 that make it fairly interesting, but I'm going to save those for maybe another video on down the line and just focus on the engine. Right now, I'm going to start focusing on how they were used and what makes them special in the square body GM trucks. Now, if you're not familiar with the square body GM trucks, they started life in 1973 and lasted till 1991. The last few years were just Blazers, Suburbans, and crew cabs or 1-tons. Like I said earlier, the small block 400 was introduced in 1970, but it wasn't until 1975 that you could actually get one in a pickup truck. And in order to get one in a pickup truck, you had to have a four-wheel drive. They were not ever available in a two-wheel drive, and they only lasted 5 short years, from 1975 to 1980. You could also order a Blazer or Suburban in the four-wheel drive or K-Series with a small block 400. But there is one exception to that I found in my research. 1980, you could not get a Blazer with a small block 400 in it. Now, with all that said, if you knew the right people, had the right dealer, and they knew the right channels, they could possibly send an order in through the central office production order of COPO, just like they did with some of the muscle cars, and order whatever engine you wanted in your two-wheel drive. But as far as standard options, the 400 was not available in any two-wheel drive model. From 1975 to 1979, in the pickups, the RPO code for the 400 was an LF4. They started out with a base horsepower of 175 at 3,600 RPM and 290 torque at 2,800 RPM. Now those are gross numbers. That's with all your accessories and exhaust and everything. So they're a little bit lower. In 79, they had the same RPO code, but the horsepower jumped up to 185 at 3,600 RPM, and the torque went up to 300 at 2,800 RPM. I don't know what they changed, or if they really changed anything, or if it was just some magic with their numbers, why the horsepower and torque went up in 79. Your guess would be as good as mine on that. Now in 1980, the last year of the small block 400 in any production vehicle, the RPO code changed to an LE4. The horsepower numbers went to 180 at 3,600 to torque 310 at 2,400. Now some other interesting information if you want to stick around and listen to it, some prices from back in those days. If you were to order a 400 to put in your pickup truck, the only ones I could find that had any prices as far as the extra cost, what it would be, was the 77, 78, and 79. Now the half-ton models were the most expensive to have the option of the 400 in that truck. 77 is a $369 option, 78 a $465 option, and 79 it jumped up to $640 option. Now for the K20s or the 3/4 ton four-wheel drive models, the price in 77 was $294. 1978 was $410, and in 1979 it dropped all the way down to $170. Now for the K30 or the 1-ton four-wheel drive models, which were only available from 77 onward, and in the case of the 400, 77 through 80, the price was in 77 $294 option, 78 was $410, and 79 is a $605 option. Well, I hope you guys found these facts as interesting as I did, and hope you learned as much as I did. I did actually learn a little bit about these 400s with my research on them. I think I'm going to end it off here. Not much more I want to say about the small block 400 and its lifespan in the square body trucks. So until next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. We'll catch you later.